Hey, it's Andreas. I've been investing for over 10 years, and in today's video, let's talk about MPW. I have some good news for you, and I have some comments on what I think is a missed opportunity. Starting with the good news, we have a very responsive investor relations division. So I wrote them earlier saying, hey, I'm a retail investor. I write, I did not understand this part about the conference call where he talked about the dividend and the 8-cent restriction in cash. What exactly did you mean? Can you please give me some color on this and on the timeline of the dividend that we now know has been announced? Today is the 26th of August, so we know that the dividend is going to be 8 cents a share in cash and no equity issued. So that's the missed opportunity that I will talk a bit about later, so stay tuned for that one. Alright, so regarding investor relations, the important part is not really what's in the answer. The important part is that they're actually answering, they're hungry for retail investor capital, and they're basically just reiterating the information that's already out there in the market. You can't really expect anything else from investor relations. I'm fully aware of this, so if you're typing a comment, you can delete it now. But if you remember a few videos ago, I talked about the bad news on Big Lots stock, because I wrote these guys back when I thought, alright, this company is a little bit interesting with regards to revenue trend, the cyclicality, but they had a big worry regarding the debt situation. So I wrote investor relations, completely ghosted me on my question regarding outstanding debt and getting some help in summarizing it and getting a clearer picture. So a big warning flag when you don't get an answer from investor relations. You're just supposed to get this basic reiteration, and that's a sign of a functioning company with nothing to hide, in my opinion. So the answer that I got regarding specific coloring of the dividend was, hi Andreas, we cannot provide you with any specifics regarding the declaration of our next dividend. So as you know, this has already been declared. The dividend is a board level decision, and they inform investor relation regarding the quarterly dividend after they have met, discussed and decided. At that point, we issue a press release to inform the market, as we've seen. According to the terms of the amended credit agreement, we are limited to pay a quarterly cash dividend of 8 cents per share in any physical quarter during the modified covenant period, which was effective June 30th, 2024 through and including September 30th, 2025. Upon expiration or earlier termination of the modified covenant period, the amendment provides that the total leverage ratio, unsecured leverage ratio, and minimum interest coverage ratio will automatically reset to the prior levels without any further restrictions on cash dividend, except as set forth in the credit amendment prior to the amendment. Yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful. That's very difficult English, but this is the information that's out there in the press release, and just converting it to plain English here. So we have this 8-cent cash, very intuitive. But then we have an agreement here, and the speculation and interpretation that I do upon this is that they are negotiating with the creditors here and with the different parts in, for example, the steward deal, that they have government parts, other creditors, and they just made a commitment here to restrict cash during the period where these steward hospitals are still not transitioned or sold, so that they made a commitment here to retain cash, and that's sort of a safety measure in case that anything happens and maybe they have to do more bridge loan or some sort of bad news like that. So I think that one of the other parties likely tried to put this as a restriction on them. It could have been from maybe government or other creditors, who knows. I'm just speculating regarding this. So I think that just to put extra safety on the deal. And as you remember from the earnings call and when we discussed that, if this steward situation is resolved, then this amendment, this contract is nulled and they can go back to doing normal dividend. Alright, so speaking on missed opportunities here, I just want to highlight regarding the dividend here, because there's been some misinformation regarding this, and also one of the analysts asked on the call if we would see a equity part of the dividend. And I think that this was a missed opportunity. I've seen some people on YouTube calling it dilution, but it's not really dilution if, let's say, you get 1 share for every 1 share that you have, and you still own the same part of the company, so you're not really getting diluted. I think that a lot of people just conflate, they just mix together new issuance with any type of new issuance. It's only dilution if, let's say, you give it as large compensation to management and employees, well, then your position gets less and less. Or if it's some sort of targeted emission with special deals where you get to buy for cheap and the rest of the stakes in the company just become less valuable, basically. But if they were to give out a dividend, they're not going to do it in this case, of shares. So let's say for every 2 share you get 1 share. The missed opportunity here, in my opinion, is that this company has a sizable short position against it. And this means that, I will just explain this very basically in case we have some newer investors, but in, for example, private banking, you can have a special account, you put your shares in there and they can be lended to short sellers. So these short sellers, they have loaned shares from somebody else. So let's say you have a private banking account, 100 shares of MPW, and you loan it out, and then they sold it to somebody else. So basically the person who has this account for lending has 100 shares, and then the short seller has sold these 100 shares again to somebody else. So there's sort of synthetic shares in a way. So let's say that they were to issue dividend here of shares. Well, then the original person who lent his shares is, entitled to receiving these. So this means that the short seller who borrowed the shares must provide the person that they lended from with these shares. But they have already sold them to somebody else. They don't own these. They're short sellers. And what does that mean that they would have to do? Well, they would have to go to the open market, purchase these shares, and provide them to the brokerage account of the person that they lended to. So this would have created artificial buying pressure on the stock and actually created a mini squeeze. The downside, obviously, is that it's a financial transaction. They would have to talk to the markets division of one of the larger banks, and it would cost some money to actually do this, but it would indeed create a mini squeeze and drive the share price higher. And I think that this potential for this worried some of the short sellers that talked about it on Twitter. You've seen other YouTubers talk about it, that they exited the position as a result of this. But this worry is still on the table. There's going to be a new dividend in the next quarter, and management could decide to punish short sellers in this way if they decided to, but we're already seeing some of them leaving, so no need to do that perhaps, but that option is still on the table. I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity. It would have been interesting to see. It would have created some artificial buying pressure, and I think that a lot of MPW shareholders would have been very happy in the case of such squeeze. Alright, that's been it, commenting on the answer from Investor Relations. Good news, we just want to see an answer, nothing to hide, positive signal in my opinion. And the missed opportunity to create a mini short squeeze with equity dividend. And as always, hope you guys make a ton of money, whatever investments you decide to make. Take care now, bye bye.